Hi,
Hey, there she is. How are you, Belissa?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. I'm great. You look nice and comfy at home.
Yes, yes, so comfy. This is the best way to do interviews.
Oh my gosh, you can't beat that. So, are
Yeah.
you still riding high after last night's episode 2? What a hilarious episode.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite episodes, definitely. That scene with Michelle, who plays Vanessa, was
Yeah.
one of the first we shot of the season. So that definitely has a lot of special place in my heart.
Yeah, the fact of you guys coming out of the dressing room at the same time. Now, a lot of people watching the show think, oh, it's so easy. You watch that one take and that was it. I have a feeling that scene and many others took quite a while to nail, right?
Yes, yes, it definitely did. There were definitely scenes that, seem so short when you watch them,
Yeah.
but then you think back or I think back and I'm like, wow, we spent like 6 hours on this one scene.
Exactly. Exactly.
And it's like 30 seconds on TV, but it's amazing. Um, but yeah, a lot of work goes into it, that you don't really expect because you see the final product. So this being like my first ever show, first ever real big gig,
Mhm.
it's been a learning experience of how really difficult it can be, to be an
Absolutely.
actor. Yeah.
Yeah. And plus, filming this one, you guys were on location for 5 months,
Yes.
for the majority of it in Puerto Rico. So, I mean, that's a big commitment.
Yeah. Yeah. It was definitely, like, I got the part and then, me and my family were celebrating, and then it was like, oh well, you're also going to move to Puerto Rico for 5 months.
Oh my God.
um but I that was awesome. I've never been to Puerto Rico,
Uh-huh.
and oh my gosh, if you could film anywhere for 5 months on location,
Mm-hmm.
hopefully it's Puerto Rico because that place is absolutely stunning. The people there are just, I've never seen a bigger, more strong and loving community than I have there.
I know a lot of people have seen this show. It is such a hot one on ABC. Let's talk a little bit about your character, Natalie Garcia. She loves her family, but she's also very conflicted. It seems like she really is trying to find her own way within quite a loud family, right?
Yes, definitely a loud and very opinionated family.
Hmm.
um, and she grows up in a very religious Catholic family, which can be extremely difficult,
Right.
as someone who is just going through the stages of forming themselves as a
Yeah.
human being.
Hmm.
She's really taking this time, which we all, tried to do at 15, of kind of figuring out who we are, figuring out not only her place in the world, but her place in her own family,
Yes.
where she stands among them, because there's a huge age difference between, her and her brothers.
Yes.
Um, and so it's an interesting dynamic between all of them.
And I love that she's 15, but a lot of people don't realize you're 21.
Yes, I actually am. Yeah. No, I mean, it's great that I can play 15. I hope I play 15 for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Um,
perfect. It's perfect.
yeah, but no, even people on the crew, like months into filming, when they discovered like I was 21, they were, wait, seriously? What?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So another aspect of Natalie, let's talk about last night's episode. Obviously that part in the dressing room was hilarious. I love
Yes.
the comedic timing you guys all have on the cast. But we also saw more things with Natalie, like for instance, her exploring, if you will, like the first episode, her looking on the chat room and with another girl and whatnot. So how do you think that storyline will play out, and what kind of benefit is it giving to all those viewers who may really relate?
Yeah, I think, we're living in a time right now where the topic of sexuality is much more open than it used to be.
Right.
Um, and so the age is getting younger now of when, kids are starting to start that journey of discovering and, determining how they feel. Um, and so I think that's super important to have on TV, not only, as a Latina, a queer Latina, but just the story of a 15-year-old girl really coming to terms with herself, and it not being a bunch of outside forces coming in and, trying to dictate her, but her just coming into herself on her own. I think that's a really beautiful journey that not a lot of people see.
Absolutely. And it's interesting too, because if you look historically, like with, Hispanic culture back in the day, it's not very open to talk about sexuality. So this is kind of groundbreaking in that,
Yeah,
a lot of young kids and families are watching this and maybe going, I understand now.
definitely. I think a lot of my family is watching this and kind of being like, oh, she's okay. Okay.
Yeah.
um, it took a while. It took a few years for me to officially come out to all my family because
Yes.
it is very different in a Hispanic family. And the topic of sexuality is never really discussed. It's not something that's discussed at the dinner table, for instance.
Right.
Um,
Exactly.
so for a long time, I was out to my parents, but
Hmm.
I wasn't out to the rest of my family,
Right.
um, because I had to kind of lead up to that, and build up to breaking that wall down with them.
Yes. And it's awesome that you gives you a little bit more insight into Natalie when you're playing that role because you've been there.
Yes, yeah, I have. And yeah, Natalie's relationship with her parents is very, very strong. And you
Yeah.
see that, and that's going to play into, all of her journey throughout here is that push and pull with loving her family so much,
Mhm.
but also, standing strong in who she is and not being willing to back down.
Yes, yes. And the character with the relationship with her brothers. I love that they're very, very protective of you. You can see that they want to be in your business and you're like, stay away, but then you kind of want them
Yeah.
there. And that's such a dynamic that happens with all brothers and sisters. So again, something that's relatable with this show with the audience.
Yeah, yeah. And just having a healthy family on screen, whether regardless of what ethnicity or race that family is, just a healthy family on screen is beautiful to see, and it's very much needed.
Yeah. And when I spoke to Lisa, your co-star Lisa Vidal, she is so awesome. And she told
Yes.
me she plays your mom, but she also, played the role of mothering the young actors on the show. And
Oh,
I can see that. Her
definitely.
personality is so dynamic and she could be an awesome mom, but she could be intense, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There, filming on set, filming a scene with like Lisa and Carlos
Yes.
versus me filming a scene with David,
Yeah. Yeah.
very different.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
yeah, she took on the role of being a mother, and which I'm so thankful for because I was out there on my own. Um, and so she took all of us kind of under her wing, and Carlos as well. Everyone, took their role on screen, off screen as well. And we became that family.
And I bet at times, David Del Rio or Victor, I'm sure at some point you're like, hey, you're not really my brother. So back up. Were they kind of intense on set? Kind of like, hey, sister.
Sometimes, sometimes they would definitely like joke around a bit. I'd say Victor was always the one like, "Hey, little
Yeah.
sis," and
Yeah.
sometimes I had to be like, we're not actually related.
Yeah. You're like, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So,
But
yeah.
they're both of them are amazing. I would love to have them as brothers.
Oh, absolutely. They seem very, very cool. So let's talk about last night's episode. I mean, it had me
Yeah.
cracking up and it leads to so much. But so, we learn more about the baker, played by your brother, Victor, and or
Yes.
Daniel in the show, and Noah. And then, we also learn about, more of the bakery, taking that big order from the food critic. But I love the scene about with you in that dressing room because you're all about self-image and presenting a positive self-image. So tell me about that scene and kind of how that character really portrays that.
Yeah. I think in regards to, having a positive sense of self, I think Natalie, she's still a teenager. So I
Mhm.
know at 15, I wasn't necessarily like totally confident in who I was.
Yes.
Um, but what I love about Natalie is that she doesn't let her insecurities drive her.
Mhm.
It's not what she leads with. She has them, but she has bigger things on her mind, which is great. And I love that about her. So with that scene, I wanted to focus. I didn't want it to be just about the negative side. I wanted it to be about her, just in this really funny situation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what's also cool is, when you think of, I'm Hispanic myself, but when you think of shows in the past, it could involve like, drug dealers or this and that. But I love that. This is just a regular family who happen to be Hispanic and who speak
Yes.
Spanish. So this is something so relatable
Exactly.
to me, to everybody.
Yeah, yeah. And it's exactly what you said. And a lot of my castmates always say it too. It's a show about a family that just happens to be
Yes.
Hispanic. It's not the driving point of the show. And not to say that those shows aren't needed too, because I love those. Party of Five was amazing,
Yes.
beautifully, beautifully done.
Mhm.
Amazing work in there. But this one is just lighthearted, and it's really, really just about family and love.
Yes. And you had said this was one of your first really big projects. How does it feel now to be, I mean, you've already done so many things in the public eye, but now really catapulted into the spotlight. How does that feel as a young actress?
Um, it it feels surreal, definitely. It is a little scary.
Yeah.
I don't you dream of it and you prep for it, but you're never really ready. But it has all been positive so far. I mean, it's everyone has been loving the show and everyone has been so kind who's been reaching out to me. It's it can get a little overwhelming because I want to respond to everyone and
Of course.
but it's it's amazing to see and I feel so lucky to have this happening.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many actresses that would have died for this role. You nailed it because you're so fun to
Thank
watch.
you.
The process of getting this part, though, how tedious was that, and how did that come about?
So the process of getting the part, I went in for the initial reading for the pilot, and
Yes.
then I got a callback,
Hmm.
and from there, I got the screen test, and it was about like 3 days in between each of those. So it was a bit like, okay, we got the callback, okay, but now you have to come in for a screen test. It was a lot of ups and downs. Um, but going in for the screen test, I actually walked in with Lisa and Carlos.
Oh, perfect.
And yeah, that was really fun to see. But every single person in the room, working behind the scenes, the producers that we have, Dean, Peter, Rachel, they are absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
And so they were in the room and they made it so comfortable. The minute I walked in there, I felt at ease, which you don't always get in an audition room. And I think that is just as important as the actor's job, as well as, on the other side of the table.
Absolutely. And just watching the interaction, I'm putting some pictures up just so people can reference there. It's always fun to see the pictures from the show. But it's also, not just your character with your brothers, but Mari's character with Rafael, her husband. Just that realistic energy with the family, which is really, really cool. And finally, what do you have coming up? Like, who do you want to work with? Because I'm sure now, you're everything's opened up now. So what do you plan on doing?
Well, right now, I'm really hoping for a season two of Baker
Wow.
and the Beauty. So
Yes.
that's where my focus mostly is on promoting this show. Um, but aside from that, I actually do have a Quibi show coming out
Sweet.
with Catherine Hardwick. I'm not sure when, but it's called Don't Look Deeper. And then after that, I don't know really. I I really am so attached to this show
Hmm.
that that's kind of where my head is at.
Yeah, that is so great. Well, Belissa, it has been my pleasure to speak with you. And you are a doll and you portray that on the show. And I can't wait to see what the rest of the season holds for you and your characters.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on today.
Yes, and I hope we get to do it again sometime soon.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Well, take care and I'll talk to you later.
Thank you. You too.
Well, thanks for tuning in. I'm Marco Gonzalez, and I'll see you next time right here on the couch. Take care.